Before we dive into today's conversation, I have an exciting reminder for all my fellow designers and decorators. If you're ready to take your interior design business to the next level in 2025, the Profit Academy for Interior Designers is open and ready when you are. This 6-week online course is designed to help you increase your profits, take control of your business, and charge what you are truly worth. The best part? You can do it at your own pace. So whether you need it to fit into your busy schedule or you're ready to dive in and start making changes today, the Profit Academy is ready for you. With the Profit Academy, you will get a step-by-step roadmap to running a profitable design business, proven price strategies to increase confidently and profitably charge for your time and your designs, templates, worksheets, real-world tools to streamline your workflow, and the flexibility to complete the course on your schedule because your business should work for you and not the other way around. If you're ready to get started, head to the link in the show notes, and in just 6 weeks, you could be running a more profitable and efficient design business. Now, let's get ready to talk to today's incredible guest. Let's talk about something that's truly changing the way interior designers work. Community over competition. Today, I'm thrilled to have Kathy Tonks on the podcast, a seasoned interior designer who has taken collaboration to the next level by creating a game-changing designer co-op. Imagine a space where designers can work side by side, share ideas, and have access to over 200 vendors, shared meeting spaces, and a full showroom of material, all under one roof. However, you're still running your own interior design company. That's not all. With the collective buying power of over 21 designers and growing, Kathy's co-op is unlocking exclusive discounts and vendor relationships that would have been nearly impossible for a sole designer to achieve on their own. So the beauty of what Kathy is building isn't just about resources, it's about banding the design community together to support and learn and grow. And from education days to vendor presentations to simply having a place to collaborate and connect, this co-op is truly a one-stop shop for designers looking to elevate their businesses. So let's be real. It's time to shake off the old secretive mindset of our industry and step into the future where we lift each other up. And today we're diving into how Kathy's vision of bringing designers together and why community could be the key to our success. So let's get into it. Welcome back to the Business of Beautiful Spaces podcast for interior designers. Today I'm thrilled to be joined by Brenda Brix on the show. She is the founder of Brenda Brix Consulting, a highly regarded industry leader with over 2 decades of experience in interior design. She built her firm from the ground up, refining her business through trial and error to create a thriving company with streamlined processes, an incredible team, and a client roster that she loves. Her journey wasn't always smooth sailing. After facing burnout and a life-changing health crisis, Brenda redefined success on her own terms and prioritizing joy, balance, and intentional growth. In today's conversation, we're going to dive into how interior designers can build purpose-driven businesses that support their lives instead of consuming them. We all know we're guilty of it. We all know that we let work take over our lives in so many ways. So we're going to try and help give you key strategies for setting boundaries, delegating with intention, and making the mindset shifts that are needed to create a fulfilling and sustainable design business. And if you have ever felt overwhelmed by the demands of running a firm, this episode is for you. So get ready for an inspiring and practical discussion on how we can craft a business that fuels your creativity while allowing you to truly live. So let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Business of Beautiful Spaces. Hi, Brenda. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm super excited to talk to you today. I know. I have mine too. Coffee's important when it's early on a Monday morning.
Yes.
It might not be for everybody else when they're listening, but it is when you're recording. Can you start off by telling all the listeners how you got started in interior design?
Well, actually, I grew up in construction. My dad renovated houses, flipped houses, built one new house a year. And so I was his little helper. My mom worked full time, so I literally followed him around the job site most of my childhood, loved it. And I actually have a background in science. And when I was in the lab full time, I just decided I need to be outside seeing real results with people. And so I decided to go back to school at that time. And so I went back and did my design degree while I was working part-time.
So I have a very similar story. My dad was also a builder, and he built a house every year, and we were living in it normally. But my sister and I always say it's like a weird thing that we love the scent of sawdust and paint. Like that
Completely. And drywall mud
smells,
is perfection. Yeah.
right? It smells like home. Like most people are like, oh, cinnamon and chocolate chip cookies. No, no.
Yeah,
We love
exactly.
sawdust, fresh paint, and a little drywall mud doesn't suck either.
Yeah. Progress. It means
Like,
progress.
right? And I can appreciate that because I remember my dad didn't want me to go into this world of construction. They wanted more as an immigrant to Canada. He wanted more for his kids, not realizing that, of course, we've absorbed this. It's
Yeah.
been part of our life every day for ever until I left the house, got married, and bought my own house. But my sister's the same way. She really covets and loves that scent. So anyway. Okay, so we're going to talk today about how we redefine success and what that means. And I know your journey was a little bit different than most of us. So can we explore that and you can tell us how it is that you came to wanting to redefine your business and what that meant to you?
For sure. Like, I actually, when I first went out on my own, I had worked for other designers for quite a while. And when I went out on my own, it exploded really quickly. And I had gone out on my own because I had three kids, young kids, like literally did it when I was pregnant with my third and thought it would give me more flexibility to be home, which was, yeah, exactly a big joke. But anyways, and it just exploded really quick. And I really got into that hustle of feeling like I had to do more, I had to be more, I had to take more projects, I had to be there for clients, for my kids, for everybody. And I really started to burn out hard a few years into it. My husband was in the same boat. He was burning out hard. And I just knew I couldn't see an end to it. I didn't know how to get out of it. But then I actually found a lump in my breast about 6 years ago. And that was a huge wake up call of, you know, I need to be able to create a business that can support me, even if I had to go through treatments or these big life events. And that I had to make some changes so that I would have some time and I'd have time to take care of my kids, take care of myself, as well as keep the business going. So like I said, it was a big event for me. And I always thankful in a way that it happened because it did change my life so much to put my priorities in place and actually put the work into creating a business that supported the life I wanted rather than the business running my life.
And I think as women, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I know a lot of women in my life that own their own businesses. We're always running. We're always taking care of others. If our child has a cough, we take them to the doctor. If we have a cough, we'll live with it for a month before we finally think, okay, maybe we should do something. Like we're always nurturing others, including our clients and our projects and our other baby, which is our business. And we
Yeah.
don't take care of ourselves the right way, which is how you and I connected because I had done a whole episode on well-being and as you get more perspective and as you get older and how more important that becomes, because I feel like when we're younger, and I had young kids while I was running my business, you think they're not aware, you think you're going to have more time, but you actually don't because you are
Yeah.
wearing way more hats than just the interior designer. You're
Yeah.
also the CFO, you're the CEO, you're the like your COO, like you're doing all the things, wearing all the hats, which I know we talk about often on here. And we want to do it all because we can, and we're usually a soulpreneur, so you try really hard to not give out more of the money that you're trying to work really hard to make. And so we're running really thin and we're running on a really fine line of I always call it a frequency. I run high on this frequency where you can burn out really simply. And sometimes I don't know about you, but I find that that line keeps shifting. So as we get busier and as we build our businesses, we just keep putting that bar a little higher and we
Yes.
think we think we can just do a little bit more and a little bit more. So the burnout is actually greater by the time we get there. You don't realize how exhausted you are. And so sorry, that's a long way around just saying I think we're all guilty of doing that at some point in our lives. And you had to have a different type of moment that obviously brought you to some clarity to change that. So what was the first step you took into changing your business to work for you as opposed to you in the business? Uh-oh. Did I lose you?
Well, Atlee, I'm in a podcast. Okay. Sorry, my daughter started my car and my car picked up on my phone. I'm so sorry.
Oh, funny. Don't be. That's fine. I don't know where I lost you, but I was just saying a long way around of asking you what was the first things you changed in your business to work for you as opposed to you in it.
Well, the biggest thing I think was figuring out first what I actually wanted out of my business. Like that's really important to me to just figure out what I want my day to look like, what I want my life to look like. And from there, then I can reverse engineer what I need the business to do for me to actually support that. That was the biggest like aha moment for me is how do I know what I want the business to look like if I don't know what my life should look like? Right. So that was really key for me doing in that. And that's what I work with a lot of other designers on. And then from there, it's like really figuring out what the process is, having a defined process, which allowed us to really break down a task list, a specific task list, and then going through that list and figuring out what do I actually enjoy doing? What am I actually good at doing versus what I suck at? Because if I don't enjoy it, you suck at it, you don't want to do it, it doesn't happen. And then from there, I was really, really able to go through and figure out what could I pass on to somebody else who would be better at doing the things that I didn't enjoy doing. As well as doing that task list really allowed me to look at the financials about what my time was worth versus passing to somebody else and charging for their time and how that could actually be more profitable for me. But it would really free me up to do the things that I enjoy doing and give me back some of my life that way, right? But it really is hard for most. I mean, we're in this industry because we want to help people, we want to do everything, we want perfection. And I think the hardest thing was just having that mindset of I need help and I need to ask for help, but I need to know what type of help I need and really defining that first and putting the work in to figure out what that help looked like for me and the company.
And that goes without saying, I think, for everybody who's always, I get asked a lot, when did you know that you're ready to bring someone into your business or what should it be? And that is key, I think, right there. Like you are buying back time. So what do you not enjoy? And that is the easiest thing to give up. If you are not enjoying it, let somebody else do it. If that is the one element of your business that you absolutely hate doing, take it off your plate. Because that dread it's taking you longer to get that task done just because you don't even want to do it. And you're probably putting it very low on the priority list. So if anything, get it off your plate and get that to somebody else, which their time, you know exactly to your point, how much your time is. We can quantify what we're worth. So 9 times out of 10, you can pay someone far less to get that task done.
Yeah.
And it's a
And the
great way of
first
buying
person
back
I
your
actually
time.
hired was an office manager to do, the invoicing, the billing, ordering, tracking, because we don't value our time enough in many ways. Where if it's somebody else billing the client, it is what it is. The bill
So
is what it
true.
is. And I found that alone made sure that I actually billed properly for my time. And so I made more money just in that aspect.
Exactly the same for me. I didn't hire them first, and I wish I had. Whenever I'm asked, like, who did you hire first? Would you do it again? No, I would actually hire somebody exactly like to your point, an assistant or somebody who could take all of that paperwork off because that time and effort is not making me any money, but I know what I'm worth when I'm designing. So let somebody else do it for a lesser amount per hour if you want to quantify it that way. And to your point, they don't question the sofa price. They're like, that's what it is. You told me to do this, and they send it. And the client bought it. And meanwhile, I would have been like, ooh, that's too much. Maybe we should shave off a little over here because I don't know if I would pay that much for a sofa.
Exactly.
But they just do what we had told them to do and it's gone. And the client already approved it before I had a chance to be like, ooh, that might be a little too much for that sofa. So I love that I was the same as you. Like, whereas I realized they weren't questioning it, I was the only one questioning it. And they had already signed off and bought that piece and didn't
Yeah.
think twice about it.
Exactly.
I know. We're all guilty. I say we're all guilty of shaving off hours at one point. We're all guilty of tweaking a price because we wouldn't see the value in it or we don't think that we'd want to pay that, but we're not our client. So
Exactly. Mhm.
So I guess the other thing is I just want to touch when everyone's listening there. I mean, until you start building a business, you don't know what you don't know. And I remember when I started getting into buying like liability insurance and life insurance and business insurance and all these things, one of the things that the insurance company brought up was personal insurance for if something happened to the business owner ourselves, what are you covered for and what are you not covered for? So, anyone listening, you might want to look into that because if something happens to you and you're not able to run their business, there is insurance that helps you pay people to this point. Like you could get somebody coming in and they'll give you a lump sum or they'll pay some of your salary, whatever the case may be, and then you can use that money to keep your business going while you need to pay attention to other parts of your life. So keep that in mind too, and maybe reach out to your insurance provider and see if they can help you with something along that line. Now I'm
Mhm.
Canadian, so I'm not sure if that's different in Canada than in other places, but just maybe look into that. So let's talk about the mind shifts, because we were talking about what's necessary for designers, business owners to embrace this abundance without compromising our well-being and our burnout. What are some steps we can take to help us with that?
Well, like I said, to me, that is very personal. And that was the first step I did was, what do I actually want my day to look like? Put it in writing, review it often. Because a lot of the times, people are always like, well, you should just mind shift, like your mind shift should be on abundance. Well, that's easy to say, but how do you actually do it?
Do that, yeah.
Right. And so for me, I'm very analytical. And so it was really breaking down what I needed to do, putting time in the calendar. Calendar blocking was huge for me to really get that, that my personal time was also as important as work time. So like I actually go to the mountains every year with my girlfriends who are also entrepreneurs, and that's when we do our business planning. And one of the really important key things for me on that week is I do my calendar blocking. So I put all my personal stuff in first, and that takes priority over the work stuff. Then I can calendar block from there what I need for work, right? But it is, again, bringing that personal value back to yourself. Like that is the biggest mind shift, that your time is valuable, your life is valuable. You are just as valuable as your clients, and how you run your business is as valuable as your clients. So for me, I think what really came out of that was actually setting proper boundaries. And that really helped the mind just, mindset shift for myself, but also the people I worked with. Right. So having boundaries in place, like how we build our time, or how we communicated, our project process, all of that, so that it made sure that it followed how I wanted my day to follow. And clients really respected that too, because we were basically coming in as the professional saying, okay, this is how we work. This is how it's going to be. And I got way less pushback from there. And so that also freed up more of my mental space, because I wasn't getting pushback from clients that I had to explain all the time. It was just, this is what it is. And this is how we move forward. And same thing with setting those boundaries, even with my family and my team, is communication is so key in all of that, right? So when I was able to sit down with the team that I had and go through the boundaries that I wanted and why and the value for them, they didn't push back either, because they helped me support creating those boundaries and actually following through with them, because they understood the value of them for the company and for myself as well, right? And again, for clients, I find that easy to communicate to them now, because we're communicating to them of why we do it and how it actually brings value to their life and creates a successful project for them, right? So it's all tied together, and once you have that mindset shift to actually be intentional about it and look at it and make those concrete steps with help from other people, it's so easy now to just keep that rolling. And like I said, for me, abundance was a big mind shift that I had to make, and now I totally live that way. But it's because I put that work into setting up the boundaries and communicating those boundaries and putting all of that in place.
How do you communicate that with your client? Is it verbally at a presentation, or do you have a document? Like, how do you communicate your
Yeah,
boundaries
well,
with your
we
client?
talk about it early and often. So at the discovery call, we talk about our process and why the process gives them a successful project. At the initial consult, again, we talk about it. We actually read through our agreement with them word by word, just so I can explain everything, go through everything, explain about how we communicate. No texting. For us, that's a big thing. I don't want my
Me
phone or
too.
my watch dinging at me. So clients don't text us, period. It's email. And if we have a phone conversation, it's followed up with email, and it's between office hours. That's right.
Same.
And
So
define,
important.
like, if there's an emergency, yes, they can call, but it's define what that emergency actually can be. Like, it can't be that they're thinking about the pillow fabric and they're freaking out because they're not sure they like it.
Yeah, that's not an
Like their
emergency.
house needs to be falling down around them for it to be an emergency. Things like that. We talk about how we do our fee structure, and we do it in a phase structure that follows our process. We talk about how we bill for product, how they can pay for product, the options. All of that is in that agreement that we read over. And then we send a weekly update to our clients on projects, as well as at every stage when we have, like, say, a meeting where we're going to meet with the contractor, review the budget. There's an agenda that is sent out ahead of time of what we're going to cover, what, again, the value of doing this meeting, and for them to bring their checkbook and be ready to write a check.
Yeah.
And it's
So I
almost
do
like
the
it
same
almost
thing.
makes it like it's easy roadmap for the client, so they know
Yeah.
exactly what's happening, so they're happy. And also, it's almost like funny. It's like, yeah, you got, next check coming, like no big deal. But because we're communicating that so often, they know to expect it and they're ready for it.
And that's why process is paramount. If you like, you have to have a process in your business, period, and for everything. And if a client has to ask you a question, then you need to reassess what's missing in your process. Now, sometimes people jump ahead and that's fair because they're excited. But if they have to ask you a question, you're like, oh, they should know that, then it should be in your process somewhere. But to your point, we have a what to expect guide that we send out to our clients. And it's exactly what you mentioned. It sets out what our business hours are. I actually don't give my cell phone out at all anymore. Nobody has it. Past clients do. And it actually happened this weekend where I got a text and I loathe text. I do not
Mhm.
think it's a professional manner of which to do business. I think it's different with vendors, but not with a client. So I'm exactly the same as you. I will not respond to a text. Actually, my phone is set up. If someone WhatsApp me, which there's just too many ways to get a hold of us, let's be clear, it can automatically send back, we do not accept this as a mode of communication with our company. Here's the office number. Here's our office hours. Please feel free to email me here. And I love that feature that WhatsApp does,
Yeah.
but I wish Apple did it. I wish I had it because it would go to every single thing because I don't find it a professional way to do business and we don't communicate via text. So that's written in our what to expect guide along with our hours. Same thing. It's Monday through Friday and you will not hear from us on weekends. People don't have access to their computers. Now, if there's a flood and the house is falling down, I'm going to respond. But
Yes.
otherwise, I agree. You have to set the boundaries, but the key is actually sticking to it. Don't you find? Right? Because they'll always like, listen, I will say, if I'm thinking about something I will send it on a Friday at 6, but I don't expect an answer until Monday, but I'll send it. So I feel like clients might do that too. But they won't get an answer. But as soon as you give that inch, you can
Yes.
expect you respond on a Saturday and you blew the boundaries, you know it's going to happen again. So I think
Yeah.
that's the key too, is sticking to our boundaries. Like we set these rules, we set these boundaries, but if you veer off and don't stick to it, then you can't expect the client to also stay aligned with what you're. Okay, so what I'm hearing is we got to communicate our boundaries very clearly, often, as you mentioned. And then we have to align them and we have to follow through. I think that's a
That's the
big
toughest
key.
part.
It really is. It
Always.
really is. Is there any other ways that we can communicate our boundaries, even to our team members? Like I know we're just talking about clients, but what about vendors and team members? Is there something there that there's some lessons that we can take away?
Yeah, I think, like I said, the biggest thing, we actually have a weekly meeting and we go through things like that, like what's working, what's not. Or if I like I have a quarterly review meeting with each of my team members about their boundaries and my boundaries and do they align? My boundary pushing one of theirs and vice versa. And there's lots of ways. It doesn't have to be boundaries. It can be like even like their job, what they're doing day to day. Do they enjoy it? Do they not? And look at those. That's why even that task list I was saying is so important because our whole team actually goes through it every year and says, you know what, I've outgrown this task. I don't want to do it anymore. Or I like doing this now. I don't, and what the part of their growth structure is. And I find having those conversations about that also ties into having conversations about boundaries and what's working for them and what's not, so that we can all grow together within that system. And then if we do need to bring in somebody else's, like a subcontractor, another fractional, whatever, we've got those tasks and those boundaries defined by everybody about what's working, what's not, so we can shift that way. And then with the family too, it's the same thing. It's just so important to actually have conversations about it and not just say, we're not doing this. Like, why aren't we doing it? This is how, what's important to me and why, and get their feedback and buy in on that as well. And it's not just like, I think of my husband and kids, but even my parents, my in laws, it's like, we all work from home in my company. So you can't just walk in my house and expect that I'm like doing laundry on your behalf when I'm at
Yeah.
work, things like that, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, I think the biggest, it always to me always comes back to communication. Anytime there's a lack of communication, that's when things start going off the rails.
That's fair.
Right. And so like I said, it's so true about reiterate it often, always, and again, there's ways to say it that can be, you're not trying to go after somebody, you're trying to show them the value that it's going to give to them as well as bring value to your life. Right. But like I said, the other thing I often find designers, again, we don't value our time. So the financial boundaries are so important to set as part of your process of how you bill, when you bill, that you're always billing ahead of time. You're not asking for it after the fact, because that's when we really get, either people pushing back or we'll push back on ourselves before we send it out, like you said.
Right.
So setting those milestones, making sure you're taking retainers on product, or taking, for product that you're taking the fees ahead of time. And then the other thing is really defining what that scope of work is. So
Yes.
again, I think of that scope of work as the biggest boundary in a project, right? So having a really detailed scope of work that's signed off on. Scope creep is real. We're always going to have scope creep. But how do you then, qualify that? If you have that set scope of works in your agreement with the client, the scope creep then is billed on top of that, right? Because it's very defined. You can't just add in these things constantly, and then in our mind, I found when we didn't have a great scope of work is we would just be like, oh, we'll just do it, because we didn't really define,
Define.
and clients just kept adding and adding, rather than it's like, no, this is what we're doing. And I'm like, I'm happy to do this. And this is our rate to do that.
Well, I think too, that's where our contracts really become your best friend. I say this a lot too. Like, if that happens on a site and they want something else, and I'll be like, that's great. I will requote that and I will send you another contract later today or the end of the week. Or so because that's not in our contract. So I'll have to send you another contract. So I always rely and blame the contract, which becomes really easy. And it's a great way to make sure that they recognize that there's additional fees and they're signing off again. So if you don't have a contract, that's your first thing that everyone listening needs to go get. But also it becomes a really great tool that you can use. Now, there's scope creep sometimes where you're like, I have zero interest in doing what you're asking me. So can we explore the how to say no, as that is a boundary, and learning how to say just straight up no?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think part of that, don't wait till you're in the moment. Think through, you can even think of past situations and come up with what you're going to say ahead of time. Like we actually have, again, a lot that goes through email. So my favorite thing is I'll have to get back to you on that. I'm going to go back to my team and see if we have time and capacity, because that's an easy out, just saying,
yes,
we don't. And again, typically we know somebody who might actually want to do it for them, so we could pass on a name. So we're not just saying no, but giving yourself that space to not have to say no in the moment. Or like I said, coming up with those scripts ahead of time to just say, again, that's not in my wheelhouse. That is not my zone of genius. And so I don't think it's appropriate for me to take that on, but let me see if I know of somebody else who can. Things like that, right? Like, again, you're not just saying, no, I don't want to do it. You're just saying that is not my expertise.
I'm going to rewind a little bit. I want to go back to when before you found the lump. And did you have the same? Yeah, I know you built process, but you must have had some process to the business. But did you incorporate any core values at that point that then got shifted after you've gone through this, or did it stay? I'm always so fascinated by, because I feel like
I
we're
didn't
always
have
talking
core
about aligning.
values
Okay, got it. Yeah.
before, which is a set. Like I honestly no business acumen at all when I first started. And it wasn't until I found the lump that I really started looking at as a business. And that's the first thing I did, was set those core values.
Right.
Right. And that is something that we look at every year, again, as part of that planning retreat, is what are, because again, things shift as your company grows and your life changes.
Yeah.
And so you got to always go back to those core values. And that's often a conversation I'll have with myself, even if somebody comes to me and wants something. I literally talk to myself and go through those core values, and doesn't fit in those, right? Like that is very centering.
Yes. It's a great way to bring you back all the time. It's a great way to look at that. And is this aligning? So I think that we should have probably started there. I should have asked you that first, because those core values then is what also gives you that structure for the communication and boundaries to your clients and to your vendors and to your team. And then also how we talked about following through with aligning. So I feel like if you have those core values in your business, it's so easy to reference it, and does everything else align with that, which might be a key thing. I was going to ask you, where should somebody start? And I think just by default, collectively into this conversation, you and I've probably, that is probably where you should start. Core values, and then have everything align with those core values. And it really becomes very simplistic to narrow down what works for your business and you and your lifestyle.
Yeah. And that's part of, like I said, almost like, for me, it started with, what do I actually want my day to look like, to really be able to define that. So it's called the perfect day exercise. This is something we do yearly. It's something I do with all of my coaching clients about figuring out what that perfect day actually looks like for you now. And again, it's something that it's an exercise. So you kind of have to do it a few times at the beginning to get the mind really able to open up and expand and think about it. But it really boils down for you what's really important in your life and business, and allows you to figure out exactly what those core values are, which everything drives off of from there. And again, it's something we do yearly because, like I said, those goalposts shift,
Yeah.
right? As your life
Uh,
ebbs and flows, they need to shift with
Absolutely.
it.
And your age and your kids change ages. All of I always do it once a year as well. I mean, at the core of it, no pun intended, it's very similar. But as you get older, you want time. Everyone wants time. So
Yeah.
this is my next. I'm glad you brought up your coaching because that was where I was going to go next. And you must see common threads. You must see after, the initial couple of, you just said you have to do it a few times to get down to the nitty-gritty of it or the real important stuff. You must see common threads throughout your coaching students. So would you share with us the most, maybe top two or three, like what that is?
I would say everybody comes to me because they're burning out,
Mm-hmm.
right? Typically, I'm working with designers that have been in business for a few years and they are burning out and they just don't know where to go and they're ready to quit, right? And then from there, like I said, we really look at it, and typically it's that there is a lack of progress, process, and so it's kind of, and that the clients run the show
Right.
rather than the other way around. And so we really work on, like I said, reverse engineering what your process in your business would look like to support the life that you want. And then from there, people often want to hire, but they're scared and they don't think they'll
Mm-hmm.
be successful at it because they don't really know what this person is going to do. But once you have that defined process and that defined task list, then it actually becomes quite easy to hire. And that person coming in can be successful because they know exactly what they need to accomplish for you. Like it's just black and white. This is your list of things that need to happen, right? And once they get over that hump of hiring, and usually for, again, most people I find the first thing to hire for is the administration,
Yeah.
right? That's the stuff that we're not great. And it's a lot of stuff that just takes over your brain and you can't be creative. And so getting over that hump, that is going to give you back your time to have that creative space and to do the things that you enjoy. And as soon as that triggers, they just soar from there. It's
Yeah.
just they have to put that intention in to figure out how to bring in some help to take away the things that are bogging them down.
Yeah, it's the things we don't learn in school. I've said this a million times too. I feel like I'm very repetitive a lot because these are the things that we've, as more seasoned designers, we've done it a lot longer. Yes, we went to school to learn about the fabrics and the AutoCADs and the floor plans and, dimension, but no one teaches you how to run a business. No one teaches you how to be all the hats that you need to be. And yet we're still having families and running our lives and trying to do so many things. And this is once you have a roadmap, that's what I love about these podcasts. That's what I love about the world we're living in, is that now we're able to pass this on and make it so much easier for the next generation. Because I
Exactly.
sometimes sit back and think, I can't even imagine where I would be if I had known this information 20 years ago, and how much further ahead so many women in interior design would be. That's the thing that, and not just women, but I know that I have never interviewed an interior design male yet or had anyone that wants to be on this show. So I do know that our demographic is like 92% women. And I think we're a seven of undefined. So that's why I say lady. So I'm not trying to offend anyone who's listening if you happen to be male, but I think it's so heavily female dominated that this is where I'm at. So I apologize if I've offended anybody. That was not the goal. So, okay, where can listeners find you? Where can people look into your coaching? Where can people learn more about what you can do and how you can help?
So my website is Brenda Brix, and it's Brix, so .com. And then Instagram and LinkedIn, both it's Brenda Brix Consulting. So
Perfect.
yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing today. I appreciate it. I appreciate your story. And I love learning about how designers can stay aligned and let the business help them as opposed to run their lives.
Yeah, that to me, that's the biggest thing is if you have a business that supports your life, you will actually love your business again. You will love your
Yeah,
life. And it's the best thing I ever did for myself is putting that work into creating that.
me too. I have to be honest. That's why I did this podcast was to help others, but also out of it came the Profit Academy. And one of the modules is exactly what we were just talking about, like how to set these boundaries, how to make it that it's not running you. Like it's one module of mostly learning how to bill for your time and how to be profitable. But that is how you are profitable, when you are running efficiently and you are happy in the job that you're doing and you're aligned with the goals that you're trying to create for your life. So very important. We could be here all day, quite honestly, because I love this stuff, but I will let you get back to your day. So thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Laura.